Wait for today.
Oh, yeah.
This will either be interesting or
Some controversy there?
we'll see. I've studied this chapter many times, but I refreshed
Morning!
so
I'm just so glad that you're here. I appreciate all your knowledge and yourself.
Good morning. Pretty fun to see. Here we are. Steve is not here, obviously. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. We ready to sing Love Lifted Me? One of my favorites.
But I've got some jokes.
I'm already laughing. Oh, I'm sorry. You needed the stand. Excuse me.
All right.
Would you rather have the table over there?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So let me find these. These were painstakingly curated by a quick Google search. Okay. So, I decided, I don't know how many, too many jokes you can do about fallen angels and men being corrupted, so I decided to do Noah jokes today. So I'm jumping ahead a week, but, okay. So, in the year 2010, the Lord came to Noah and said, once again, the earth has become wicked and overpopulated, and I see the end of all flesh before me. Neighbors claim that I violated the neighborhood zoning law by building an ark in my yard and exceeding the height limitations. We've had to go to the Development Appeal Board for a decision. Getting the wood was another problem. There's a ban on cutting local trees in order to save the spotted owl. I tried to convince the environmentalists that I needed the wood to save the owls, but yeah, that was a no-go. When I started gathering me, they insisted that I was fighting wild animals against their will. They argued the accommodations were too restrictive. It was cruel and inhumane to put so many animals in a confined space. Then the EPA ruled that I couldn't build the Ark until they'd conducted an environmental impact study on your supposed flood. I'm still trying to resolve a complaint with the Human Rights Commission on how many minorities I'm supposed to hire for my building crew. Immigration and naturalizations are checking into my residential status of most of the people who I want to work. And the trade unions say I can't use my sons. They insist that I hire only union workers with Ark building experience. To make matters worse, the tax office seized all my assets, claiming I'm trying to leave the country illegally with endangered species. So forgive me, great Lord, but it would take at least 10 years for me to finish the Ark. Suddenly, the skies cleared. The sun began to shine, and a rainbow stretched across the sky. Noah looked up, shocked, and in wonder asked, "You mean you're not going to destroy the world?" he asked God. "No," the Lord said. "The government clearly beat me to it." It's kind of a wordplay. I like this. Okay. One day, God calls down to Noah and says, "Noah, old mate, I want you to make me a new ark." Noah replies, "No props, God. My old supreme being, anything you want, I'll do it. No problem." But God interrupts, but there's a catch. This time, Noah, I do not want a couple of decks. I want 20 decks on top of each other. 20 decks, screams Noah. "Well, okay, big man, whatever you say. Should I fill it up with all the animals just like last time?" "Yep, that's right." "Well, sort of right. This time I want you to fill it up with fish." God answers. "Fish?" says Noah. "Yep, fish." "Well, to make it more specific, Noah, I want carp. Wall to wall, floor to ceiling, carp." Noah looks at the skies. "Okay, God, let me get this right. You want a new ark? Check. With 20 decks, one on top of the other? Check. And you want it full of carp? Check." Noah, perplexed, says, "Why?" And he was slowly but surely getting to the end of his tether. God says, "Dunno. I just wanted a multi-story carp ark." Took me a second, yeah. Noah's Diary, day 39. Unicorn pie is delicious. No unicorns anymore?
Okay. Sorry. A little slow there.
Hey, Russell, don't forget the camera.
Oh, am I supposed to turn? I think you already turned it on. I
I
hope.
know, but you're backing up.
Oh, am I getting off it?
Oh, who knows?
All right. Yeah, we can't have that. Okay.
You're drinking a drink.
So oh, this is my water. I have to have this.
I'm
Oh.
telling you what you're doing because I'm looking at you up there.
Oh, you can see me? Oh, okay, good. It's always good. I go back and I watch a few minutes and go, how much of a fool did I make of myself today? Yeah. Okay, so we are in Genesis. Let's go to chapter 6.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now, I've been preparing for this chapter for about 20 decades, or 2 decades. The reason I say that is because this chapter is one of those chapters that kind of hits you in an odd place. You either kind of look at it and you've learned about it your whole childhood and into your adulthood and kind of go, oh, it's just this chapter of the Bible and it says these things. You kind of just buy it. That's the part of you that might start little questions. Well, what is that really? What is this? How does that link to this and all that? I was not. That's what happens sometimes when you get into Scripture. and you read things and you really don't know content behind them, and neither do a lot of people who are a lot smarter than I am who've studied this for centuries and centuries. Okay? I want to try to answer all your questions as best as I can. Okay? If we're going to hit some, or we might have no questions and this will be just a breeze and we'll just be moving on. So, that's entirely up to you. Feel free, like I've said before, ask me anything you want, okay? So we're going to get into it. Job. Can you read chapter 6, verse 1 through 4?
Ready? The flood. When men began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with men forever, for he is mortal, his days will be 120 years. Read it to where,
4. Yep. Keep going.
Okay. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. And when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them, they were the heroes of old, men of renown.
Okay.
That's an interesting word. I looked it up. It's most interesting.
Does anybody have any questions about that section?
I know there's been a lot of controversy over what in the world were they?
So
Yep.
were they
A lot of
giants?
controversy.
So, quick little background on the Bible that you read. The Old Testament that you read is a translation that's called the Masoretic. It was written and translated into Hebrew by the Masoretes in about 300 to 400 AD. Okay? This is after Jesus. We say, how was the Old Testament written after Jesus? That's the translation. That's the translation that you read. Like I've said before, the translations that were originally there did not have vowels. It was all consonants. And the people at the time could read those consonants and understand the vowels that would be associated with it. The people who came after them could not. Okay? So when they wrote the Masoretic, they added all the little jots and tittles that Jesus talks about. They added all the little jots and tittles in there so to get a better understanding of words. This was originally translated, the Old Testament, the one that Jesus quotes. If you ever look back at Jesus' quotes into your Old Testament, they're going to be a little different. Because Jesus isn't quoting the Masoretic text from 300 AD, long after he was gone back to heaven. He's quoting what's called the Septuagint. The Septuagint is a Greek translation that was written about 300 BC, so 300 years before Jesus. It was written into Greek. All the Old Testament was collated, and they translated it into the known language of the world. That was Greek at the time. Okay, it was done by 70 Jewish scholars. Okay, and they wrote it into Greek for everybody to understand. That's why Jesus quotes it. The word that Septuagint uses here instead of Nephilim is giants. It uses the Greek word gigantes, meaning giant. Okay. The word there in Hebrew, in the Masoretic, the one that most of you are reading, is Nephilim. The word comes from the word to fall. Okay? The reason that the word there is often translated giants is because to fall comes from being up to going down, hence something very high coming down. A lot of other studies say that Nephilim were in fact just fallen angels, the word meaning again to fall. The word also means, again, no vowels, it can also mean to lie down, because you start standing up and then you end on the ground. Hence why it's to fall and lie down. That could be in keeping with lying with the women. Okay? Now, the Nephilim there that's referenced, it then goes on to say, I like your translation, the word is kind of heroes. Some people might have mighty men. It's more like we have, superheroes in comic books and movies and TV, and Greeks had their demigods like Samson or Hercules, and then there's Samson who's mighty and strong. people who were like great feats of strength that did these huge, mighty things, typically physically, okay? Hence the word giant. In the Septuagint, mighty, strong, tall. Solomon was like a foot taller or a head above everyone else. Right, well that goes into something else, that goes a little deeper. Now, the big one there, a lot of people focus on the Nephilim. The other one is the sons of God. The word there for sons of God, it's two words. Does anyone know what those two words are for sons of God? Well, we have God, plural God, Elohim. The other word is Bene, or Ben, meaning son. Remember how we talked about begat, meaning to produce from? The word son there means direct descendant of. Okay? Son, male child of. Male child of God. Who is called the male child of God? Jesus. There's an issue though. This word here is plural. Sons of God. There is only one other place where that. Who are these sons of God? Are they men? Because it says sons of God. Or are they angels? Who believes that these sons of God are angels?
Yes.
Okay. Why would you believe that they're angels?
God only had one son.
Okay, God only has one son, and that's Jesus. It does qualify begotten in a lot of places. His one and only, or begotten, are the ones specifically from him. Jesus mentions in the New Testament angels. When a woman is brought to him, and the Pharisees are kind of questioning him, and they say, okay, this lady has a husband, and her husband dies, and the law says that she has to marry her brother. So she marries her brother, and then he dies.
Her brother?
Or his brother.
Yeah,
So then he dies, then the next brother, and then the next brother, and so on. 7 brothers in all she's been married to, and then they die, and they go to heaven. What happens? Who's going to be her husband in heaven? And Jesus, as wise as always, answers, well, when you get to heaven, you're going to be just like the angels. You won't be given in marriage, and you're not going to be having physical relations, so it doesn't matter. Oh, wait a minute. He says that the angels aren't given in marriage. Why would these angels be given in marriage? That would contradict Jesus, wouldn't it? The thoughts on this chapter are twofold. The one is either these are fallen angels, hence Nephilim, for their children. Angels that have refused God, just like Satan. They've refused God, they've come down, and now they're disobeying God's commands. And they're becoming physical with women on the earth because they see them beautiful. In fact, to support that, Paul mentions in 1 Corinthians 11 that women should cover their hair when they pray, and when they prophesy about God, they should cover it because they're so beautiful that he says that you cover it to show the angels reverence towards God. The reference there is also so that the angels won't look upon you. So why would Paul make that reference if angels couldn't see the beauty of women and be jealous? We know that the angels that fell with Satan followed him. They refused God. So it's not like they can't make a choice. So that's the one theory. That these are angels, the sons of God, meaning the ones he created in heaven. And they've come down. They've left God's command. They have fallen, seen women and said, okay, we're going to make children with them. And their offspring are these fallen ones that are great, mighty, giant men, big men, in fact. And their descendants are big men. And these big men are mighty, renowned warriors. Okay? The other thought is that Bene Elohim here is Seth's children. The sons of men, meaning the children of Cain. Okay, remember, Cain's a bad dude. And all his offspring are kind of bad dudes. Okay, they're not going to be listening to God. And then Seth's line is the ones that really want to obey God. They're taught by their father and then so forth. And you get Enoch from that line, Methuselah, and Noah from that line. But this is when those men all of a sudden say, well, those daughters of Cain, they're really pretty. Let's go have children with them. And then they get corrupted, and then their kids are not in God's way. Now, why do I think that that's probably the answer here? Because the next verse after that, they choose these sons of God, okay, these children of Seth. They follow God, but they make a bad choice by choosing these kind of back alley women. They make a bad call. The next verse, then the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he is flesh. God says, look at this sin of men. He doesn't say, look at the sin of angels. He doesn't say, look at the sin of these big giant people. He says, look at the sin of men. They're wicked. I'm not going to keep my spirit with them forever. Okay? That's in verse 3. His days are going to be 120. It's interesting that after this, with Noah and his sons, the lifespan starts to drop dramatically. If you watch within, I think it's 4 generations, they're already down to under 200 years. Very quickly. Okay? God hates sin. Whether it's the sin of a fallen angel, whether it's the sin of man, God wants you to follow him. But just because you didn't sin, that doesn't mean, as we've said before, that you don't pay for the price or the consequence of others' sin. Jesus didn't sin, and yet he was punished for us. Sometimes when someone else makes a mistake, like driving drunk, you pay the consequences. Okay? Sometimes that happens. That's sin. Sin is horribly destructive. In this case, sin had become so terrible because people that were holy were making choices to unite with people who weren't. And it was just ruining the world. And God says, I'm done with it. My spirit, or the word there could be breath. My breath is not going to remain in people forever. I'm going to take it away. They can't have it. They've ruined it. So even God looked at sin in the world and was okay with it for several thousand years. And then it gets to the point where sin is so terrible, it's so bad, that he just can't take it anymore. God himself can't take it anymore. Can someone read 5 through 7?
Now the Lord observed the extent of the people's wickedness, and he saw that all their thoughts were consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them. It broke his heart, and the Lord said, I will completely wipe out this human race that I have created. Yes, I will destroy all the animals and birds too, and I'm sorry I ever made them. To 7?
Yep.
That's 7. To 8?
Yeah, just read 8 there.
But Noah found favor with the Lord.
This is a loaded question. Is it as bad today, don't just think in our country, but in every country around the world, is it as bad today as it was back then?
Good question. It would apparently seem that
In
way
which way?
when you look at the
Anyway,
news.
Oh.
it's so wicked that God wants to destroy it. Is it that bad now as it was back then?
I'm surprised he hasn't destroyed it.
Getting there? Okay. Would the consensus be that not quite?
Probably not quite.
Nobody knows.
I don't know, we didn't live back then, so.
Well, I have an answer for that, Joe. I don't ask a question without having some sort of answer for it. Interesting. Here, God himself says, every inclination of his heart is evil. Okay? And Noah is one of a select few of his generation that's found to be righteous. That's how evil it is. Okay? Jesus himself says, it's going to be, in the end, like it was in the days of Noah. That God's going to be so grieved that he made man, he's going to start over and wipe it out. Christians are going to be faithful to God in that time, but I can imagine that even Christians, as we've seen much through the centuries, water down their faith. Water it down. mix and mingle it with a lot of things, add a bunch of rules. I mean, Ed's not here, but in talking to Eddie, he was raised Catholic, and he said, well, how come this Pope gets to say something, but then this Pope later on says, well, that's not a thing. That's what they've done with the faith. They've taken the faith and they've said, well, here's a biblical principle that's so important, but you don't have to really worry about it. Marriage, man and a woman, that doesn't really fly with our culture. We can do all sorts of whomever with whatever. That is the kind of evil God's talking about. Where every inclination of man, even when they're a Christian, they love God, they're walking in the middle of the road. Really want to love God? Does he really mean that I should care for people? When we say here, and I've said it myself, I was raised Baptist, and so we were taught Revelation all the time. Revelation, I got 500 different theories of things in Revelation, I'm telling you. It's wild. Because it was pushed. Revelation, end times, Revelation, let's go. Really? Jesus himself said it's going to be as bad as the days of Noah. It isn't there yet. But I bet you if you lived in San Francisco, or Detroit or Chicago, you might actually feel that way. New York? They encourage you to keep your car unlocked so that someone won't break into it. Can you fathom that idea?
No.
That they suggest, no, don't lock your car. Someone might want to see something inside of it. Really? That's where they are. Are we there? No, thank Jesus. We're not there. Okay? What's that? Right. Well, for me, it's always politicians have the power that they have, but you have control over what you do. Okay? Politicians can mandate whatever they mandate. They can't force me to give up my faith. That's plain.
They have to answer for what they do.
They will answer for what they do or what they don't do.
We all will.
And we all will. So remember, it is not that bad yet. It is nowhere near that. And every time we hear of a thing and we shake our head or we cringe at it and say, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a lot worse. A lot worse. And I don't even want to think about how bad it would be to just live like that. But that's what it's going to be like, because that's what it was then. Men were so evil, God said, I can't do this with them anymore. One guy stands out. In fact, where it says there, Noah found favor, this is the same kind of reference that Mary's given in the New Testament. It is, this person is special to me. Noah is special to God. And what's interesting is we learned with last chapter, Noah's name means rest. Okay? God's going to kind of start over. He's going to say, okay, I'm tired of all this. I'm punishing all this evil. And I'm going to kind of rest from it for a little bit. I'm going to let things grow. Okay? This is God destroying the world, giving out his punishment, and then his patience comes. And we still live in that patience. Okay? As Paul even says, he's patient with people. Okay? Does anyone have any question about anything that we've gone through so far? I know it's deep, heady stuff, and I don't want to overwhelm you with it. There's a whole bunch to that. Again, this is Genesis. It can be very deep. Oh, by the way, there's sweets back there. And I was told to go get those. If you guys want them, just get up and go get them. Don't worry about me yabbering on. Just go grab them. You're fine.
Well, Linda.
You're fine. All right. Can someone read from 9 through 12?
This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways.
So again, the word here for father and son, this is a direct relation. This is not just begat. It says begat in the previous chapter. Here it concretes that relationship, father to son. These are his direct sons. In the previous chapter it says when he's 500 years old, he begets them. It's not saying that he's 500 years old and begets them. He's saying at some point he's 500 years where these events take place and he's had these 3 sons. That's what it's saying.
Russell, could they have been triplets?
They could have been, but typically it's given out that there's a sequence to the order of birth. Even when you have twins, when you have Jacob and Esau, there's still a sequence, okay? So whether they're twins or not, it doesn't always tell you, because for them, even if you're firstborn, that gets the birthright. Whichever one comes out first, even if you're both at the same time, you're not at the same time. It's still whichever one's produced first. Yeah. So it could be. They could be. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that just it's not explained because it doesn't really give the what's behind it. But again, sometimes birthright's important, sometimes it's not. Okay. Here Shem is mentioned first because he's the one that Israelites come through, and I still believe that.